On today's show, the guys are talking with Ardis Kadiu. He's the CEO and founder of Element451, marketing and PR for schools and universities. You want to check that out. We've also got an EduTech tip of the week. All of that banter, more stuff coming up on the EduTech Guys. You're listening to the EduTech Guys, EduTechGuys.com. Hello and welcome to the EduTech Guys. I'm David Henderson.
Hey,
You're waiting. I'm like, I was like, what's the matter? I forgot to say who I am.
I'm patiently waiting. Hey, this is Jeff Madlock.
For Dave to say his name.
You know, David, we're getting a little too comfortable with this podcast.
Hey, you know what? It's all good.
Hey, it's our podcast. If you don't like it, you can take it.
It's our podcast. You can.
I'm going to take my podcast and I'm going home.
That's right. I'm packing up my toys.
Hey, check us out on the web, www.edutechguys.com. You can find us out there smiling back at you. Just go to social media at EduTechGuys. We're everywhere. You can be on social media. We're on the, the Face Click and the TikToks and all that stuff.
That's right. The riffraff.
The riffraff.
Wait, that's a whole nother thing. Never mind.
Yeah. We're on the Amazon too. You can check out our book, our workbook. We actually have a workbook from EduTech Guys. It's a podcast planner.
Yeah.
Cool things to fill out, to show topics and all this stuff, and a review at the end. 100 pages, 2 pages for each episode. You've got all these great questions and answers and guest lists and the whole bit.
Yeah.
Check it out on Amazon. Just search EduTech Guys. You'll find the podcast planner from the EduTech Guys.
Yeah, man. It's awesome stuff.
Going to be a great show today. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with Ardis Kadiu. Be right back. Hey, we've been doing this a long time, and some things we've learned we've actually put down in a book. And that is a nice show notes workbook to help you create those episodes so that you've got something to work with and to check yourself afterwards to see what you did. Don't wreck yourself.
That's right. Take your notes on what you want to do on your show, and then after you record the show, go back and reflect upon what you learned from that episode and keep on growing. It is an awesome book. It's available through Amazon. You can check it out
at books.edutechguys.com. Check out the EduTech Guys podcast workbook at books.edutechguys.com. Hey, welcome back to the EduTech Guys. We're really excited to have our next guest on the show today.
Yeah.
We're going to let him tell us who he is, what he does, and all that kind of good stuff. So here we go.
Hey, everybody. I'm Ardis Kadiu. I'm the founder and CEO of Element451. Element451 is a AI-powered student engagement platform. We help a lot of schools and universities basically engage with those students from top of the funnel, from recruiting and admissions to current students, and then all the way through that student life cycle.
Oh, that's really awesome. So let's talk about this, and let's talk about the company itself and how you guys got into this. I mean, how did you get into this? What created the company?
Yeah, so the company, well, I would say that no company comes out of thin air, and there's usually kind of a interesting story behind every company and every creation. Those ideas kind of percolate a little bit, but my journey and kind of where it started was when I was actually a student, a graduate student, and I started working at a university. This was New York University. I graduated from there, and right after that, I started working at I was in charge of their web and media services and also classroom technology. So I became, as part of the website and digital marketing, I was responsible for that student experience, that first entry to the door on the for those students. And the website, we went through a whole big redesign at the time, mobile, responsive. And I was working a lot with the admissions offices to kind of align their engagement, student engagement and admissions, because everybody knows that the main constituent for any kind of website redesign is admissions. So that's kind of where it started, right? So I started there, and that was the concept where I'm like, well, it's got to be a better way for the current systems that they had. So started the idea, first iteration, but then I moved away from the university, formed my own agency, marketing agency, and started building the product inside of that agency. And we started working with about 50 or so institutions starting to use the product. And then, fast forward, now we realized, okay, we need to kind of open this product up to everybody so that schools start using them themselves. And rather than, the agency being the operator, the school can now take advantage of the same great tools and personalization that we were using ourselves. So we spun the company out, and that's where Element451 came.
Yeah. So talk about the maybe one, maybe two of the biggest challenges that whether it's a K-12 district or higher ed district, the biggest challenge they have when it comes to bringing those students actually into their fold.
Yeah. Well, so students' expectations have changed, right? And consumer expectations have changed, right? We've gone through this. You can think about it, Amazonification of things, or Netflix, like whatever you want to call it. But the expectation that it's kind of a push communication, a push engagement. That's not the world anymore. Everybody's expecting things to be in real time. They're expecting things to be personal. They're expecting things to be on their own time. And when they're engaging with a brand, they're expecting that brand to know who they are and give them relevant stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So you're interacting with Amazon. It knows exactly, hey, did you run out of shampoo? It's in the mail. You're next. So same thing with Netflix. It's like you can think about our current engagement with students and how schools kind of engage with students, and it's cable based. It's like cable. It's like, I'm going to send you my communications. I'm going to engage with you at my own time. And by the way, you're going to get whatever I give you at a specific time. Expectations of those students have changed. They're expecting Netflix. They're expecting, I on my own terms, I want to engage with you. And by the way, I want to do it in my own time. I want to see whatever, I want to get whatever content I want. And by the way, you better personalize that to my experience. Like, I better see the stuff that I want right away on my screen.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm moving on. I'm moving on to the next streaming service. I'm moving on to the next thing. So that's kind of the biggest challenge that schools have right now. It's not the education, providing the education, but it's actually the demand part and how they're engaging with them, because the expectations have completely changed.
So I have to ask, pandemic, this has changed the whole landscape completely, because we were talking today about some universities locally in the state of Arkansas that are having issues with retaining students, because the students have realized, I can take this online. I don't have to come there. I need to do this.
Exactly.
So let's talk about how that plays into exactly what you're talking about. They learned over this 2 years of pandemic that I need it my way. I want it now. Yeah. So let's talk about how you're using the AI to do that. Are you guys, sweeping social media? Are you watching, the web?
No. So the best signals are like, us as humans, we're very predictable, right? We follow very similar, like if you want to predict what I'm going to do, just look at what I did before, and I'm probably going to do very similar things. Mm-hmm. So behavior is one of the largest predictors of future behavior, current behavior, past behavior. So rather than, sweeping kind of social media or anything like that, what we do is we look at students' behavior in the past, meaning we look at similar students, or we look at their behavior, we look at their interactions in the platform. What kind of messages do you react to? Where are you in the stage? Did you go to a website? Did you open up an email? Did you interact with your, did you complete your classes? Did you, what kind of grade did you get? So those are the signals that we're bringing in. So it's all about behavior. And then we're trying to predict, like, people that did these behaviors before, what was the likeliness of them to accomplish this next thing that we want them to accomplish? And that's kind of the way we're using the AI. So it's all about behavior, and rather than, oh, I have John from zip code, 11220, my old zip code. So John behaves this way because he is in a neighborhood where the average income is, $80,000 per household or whatever. And we expect John to be very similar to his neighbors. It's like, no, that's not the world anymore. Like, you don't, that's very biased now, and can get you in a lot of trouble, so to speak.
Right.
So along this line of conversation, then, as you mentioned, you're looking at different facets. You're looking at behavior.
Yep.
So, as a student, I'm trying to get this from a student perspective.
Yeah.
So there's a university I'm interested in, and I go to their website. The services that you offer, is this for students who have already expressed an interest in that university, and therefore maybe they've already applied, so you have some of that data already? Or is this like somebody cold coming in, you have no idea if I'm 12 or 50?
Yeah. So this is called coming in. So we start collecting data as soon as you land on that website. We start tracking your activity.
Nice.
We can engage with you via a chat component as an anonymous person, right? You can start communicating with the school. That's part of Element. And then as you go through, at some point, we're going to identify who you are, because you're either going to click on a link that we send you an email, or you're going to fill in a form, and then we can go back and now associate those prior activities that were anonymous to you as David, right? So we can do that. And so it starts from the top. Schools have had this problem before where they said, oh, we have stealth applicants, right? Or stealth students. Well, nobody's stealth, right? They were visiting your website before, right? You just happen not to know who they were. So that's the point. But going a little bit further, then the way that student now can expect interactions is, well, first of all, I was looking at a study the other day that someone did, and they did this blind, secret consumer approach where they went into 100 or so different schools' websites. They submitted a request for information form, and the response rates were abysmal, right? Only about 20 or so % of those schools got back to them within that one day. A lot of them didn't even get back to them within 48 hours. And most of them only sent them that one automatic reply saying, hey, thank you for your interest. Here's a link. And that was it. It's like, whoa, like that student is so valuable that you can't necessarily expect them to follow your old process of, hey, we're in control. The school, basically, we're letting you in because we have the gate, and now you have to jump through our hoops. Jeff, you said it. He was like, I want it now. I can get it somewhere else.
Right.
Like, why do I have to put up with this?
Right.
But I was wondering, so when you talk about that makes me think that, this is super valuable for the student, but it's also super valuable for the university or the school that's looking to bring this student in. So,
yeah.
That gives them the opportunity to look at it and go, do we want this student? I know that right now it's like, we need the students, but there are some schools that are like, this is not going to be a good fit for us. That sounds like a wonderful piece to the whole, to everything that's going on there. Do you find a lot of universities that like to to get that data and go, hey, these are the kids we're looking for. And I guess that's actually what I'm getting at. Can they put in, these are the ones we really want to track heavy. When they come in and they meet these needs, can we track these kids heavy? Let's put these in secondary, put these in third. We don't like to talk that way, but I know that, they have to think that way because there's only so many scholarships. There's only so many slots. Do you see that happen a lot with the groups?
So over the past year or so, what's ended up happening is that, last year when admissions dipped quite a bit, even very selective schools dipped into their into that secondary pool of students, right? Because they didn't have enough students. So this year, what's happening is that because they removed a lot of restrictions, meaning like test scores and so on and so forth, it becomes a lot easier for students to apply. So now those selective schools have a lot more applications. So they are going the opposite way. They're like, well, wait a minute, we have to put all these guards into place in order for us to understand now, without test scores, how good of a fit are you? So yes, Element can do all of that, but that's usually at a little bit later stage when this student has provided a lot more information, like perhaps some high school data or GPA data, or they've gone through an interview, or they filled in the application. So that's a little bit later on, and you can do a lot of those automatically.
So I think the really neat part here is that talking about that, when that student first comes on, and we're going to gather this and we're going to create that personalized marketing campaign for that kid. And I think that's the key, isn't it? We're going to create a personalized marketing. I bet that your clients cannot thank you enough for teaching them about marketing, especially when it comes to students.
Yeah.
So are you guys learning a lot from that also about marketing? I mean, you're pulling in that marketing data too, because you're getting that prime, 17 to 24 year old, marketing data coming in pretty heavy.
Yeah, we're getting a lot of that data, and it's kind of informing a lot of our predictive models in AI. So essentially, as we get more data, like we're training that every single day to say, okay, the pattern has changed now. So during the pandemic, that was a little bit different. They were acting differently. Now they act a little bit differently. So it's very valuable to us, right? Because if we have first-party data, that is super important. That's something that you can't get somewhere else. Like you can't have a product if you don't have, you can't have this insights without having that first party data that's coming in.
Right.
So it's very, very important.
So I think of it, it's really interesting. So, I'm a non-reader. I read half the sentence and then I start clicking. So I think that's a big, but some websites make me stressed out. So I could see where when you're gathering that data for students, since you're creating this wonderful, personalized piece, you're tailoring it to how the student's going to go through the process of registration and the whole bit. Am I correct in that kind of that understanding?
You are. So essentially, we're building up some traits or some persona traits around that student. Things like, hey, they're a fan of yours, right? Based on the interactions that they have, or they're dormant or lurker. They like opening emails at this specific time of the day, right? So those are the signals that then you can use in addition to some of the preferences that they have around program or location or where. So then the school can come in and say, you know what, this person is in state versus out of state. So I'm going to tweak now the email to have multiple versions based on those personas. And when it goes out, like I set it up once, and then based on where that student falls in at the time that message is being sent out, they're going to get that personalized version of now, if they're in state, it's like, okay, come visit us with a call to action, versus when they're out of state, it's like, well, we're going to be at this location near you at this time. Come visit us here. So a little bit different, but they're able to do that because of all those different signals and those persona traits that we're able to kind of bubble up for them and create.
I'm curious when it comes to the entities that are using the Element451 system, from their perspective, many people get kind of caught in the way we've always done things, scenario, right?
Yeah.
And so this completely shakes up the way you've always done things. So my question is going to have two parts to it. One, if you could kind of share a little bit about some of the experience, especially if one stands out where you've worked with a partner and, they were very, kind of set in their ways and they did a complete 180 and went, oh my gosh, yeah, this is, we see where we've got to change the information that's being handed out and the way it's presented and all that kind of stuff. But then also talking about all this data, and I think you hit on a key point when you've got students who aren't necessarily close by, right? And then especially if you've got a cluster, right? Because now you've got this data. So now all of a sudden you see a cluster of students that are from, just for the sake of argument, for whatever reason, 2 states away, that they probably didn't even know, the entity didn't even know that those students were interested. And all of a sudden there's this cluster of students from 2 states away that are expressing interest. There's potential to reach out. So if you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So the first part, right? This is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
It's very, very difficult. Higher education is kind of, I love it. I've been in the industry for a while now on the other side, and it's very hard to kind of move things. The best thing I won't say the best thing, but the pandemic was an accelerator and essentially putting a fire under, it's putting a fire to accelerate that digital adoption, right? So we've seen digital adoption now, 10 years compressed into, let's say, those 2 years. Schools that had to go through these long processes we need it right now. So let's kind of change our procurement process. Let's change this. That's things that were held. So the pandemic has helped in that adoption. And, we're kind of benefiting from that, but there's still a lot of different institutions that are not, they're kind of set in their ways, right? And they are still lagging behind in understanding that it's not about them anymore. Like, it's not about them. It's about the student.
Yeah.
It's about, like, how do you compete in a student-centric world, right? In a learner-centric world, for that matter, when they have so many choices. So we tend to do a lot of education right now. We actually have, we launched a certificate program around data and analytics to help schools in order to understand how to work with data and how to work with enrollment data. And it's the first certificate in enrollment analytics. So we had to launch that because we're finding that we're doing the same coaching and teaching individually, but now we're like, okay, let's put all that together so we can. So we have our first Engage conference this summer, and it's all about how do we teach everybody to look at the student-centric journey rather than individualizing the way they've been doing things. And it's open to everybody, right? It's open to everybody. It's online, and it's also in person, but there's no fee for it. And it's not about just our clients. It's an industry open one. So we're trying to do a lot of education in order to get institutions to change their view. It's working. I mean, we're seeing a lot of demand and a lot of inbound for us as well. So I'm kind of thankful that we're kind of leading in that regard. To your second point, around data and discoverability of like clusters and discoverability of once you have something that gives you visibility into the things that you're doing, if they're working or not working, right? And you don't have to spend 3 days asking your data person, it's like, can you pull this data for me? Or can you ask your institutional research person, well, how we're comparing against last year? Like, those are simple things. But now once you have all of that into one place, then it gives you the ability to say, oh, this is what we're doing really well versus this is what we're not. And there's not a lot of AI into that, right? It's just simple just some aggregations on, and you can kind of see that by eye. But if you don't have all that data into one place, it becomes very difficult to work with. So that's why we're focusing a lot on that data education, and we believe that that's probably a huge driver of adoption for kind of a marketing approach to enrollment or to student retention, because it's not anymore you get in the door and then you're out, but you have to look at the lifetime value of that student, of that learner, because education now it's changing, right? It's like it's everybody's no longer a traditional. It's no longer a traditional student. Everybody's a non-traditional student now. Like even somebody coming out of higher ed, out of high school, they're taking leap year, like they're taking a year off. They're doing whatever, and they're considered a non-traditional student. And guess what? Like we're taking Coursera courses, you're taking edX courses, stackable credentials, like all of these things are, growing so fast that you have to look at their lifetime value. You have to look at that student as getting them re-enrolled and remarketed all the time. So you almost have to think to yourself, it's like, I'm not an enrollment manager or a student, I'm a marketing person now. Like I have to think like a marketer or a CMO, right? So that's probably one of the big changes that's happening, is that you look at that student as a lifetime value, and not I get you in the door and my job is done.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of our listeners are K-12, and some amazing things are happening in K-12 right now. And in our state, we actually have open enrollment now. So you're not dictated to a public school by where you live. You can go anywhere you want to pretty much at this point. So let's talk about this is going to be a big deal for your industry, because we're already getting mailers. We're getting, come to this school district, and that opens up this, that's not just college, university. That's not just post-secondary. We're now talking pre-K. We got to sell pre-K, kindergarten, first grade, all the way through 12th, sports, band, cheerleading. We have to do all that. Where do you see that going, and where do you see you, Element451, doing that, handling that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's fascinating, right? A decade ago, we were talking about recruiting high school seniors, right? We're calling like senior cert, but then, 5 years ago, we started moving lower, closer to ninth grade, like 10th grade, ninth grade. And then now we're going to like, middle school. I'm like, wow, it's like that student doesn't know if they're going to go to school or not. Right. So but you also have a lot of charter schools that are basically, the charter school model is becoming really interesting, right? They're acting as private schools that need to recruit essentially for their charter school. Otherwise, their money dries up. Right. So they have to operate exactly the same way as a institution that's recruiting, or a private school that's recruiting, and kind of trying to get that student to stay there. So, my kids go to a school here, but when we decided where to send them, it was not just it was very, I would say, very marketing driven for us, right? We were looking at websites, we were looking at public reviews, we were looking at kind of social media presence, we were looking at, so all of those things were so important to us, because we were coming from out of state, right? We're moving from New York, we're moving to North Carolina. We had no idea what the situation was. So all of the signals that the school had was all the marketing that they were doing, or maybe marketing, not necessarily the content they were producing themselves, but like how people were talking about them. That's all marketing, right? We know that's all marketing. So it's so important that schools have that presence and have that marketing mindset as well, because it's not just local anymore. Like you said, it's more like that pool has grown so much.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I really wanted to get into that. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
About what Element451 is doing and what you guys are offering, and just even listening to you talk about how you've even, your organization has even had to adapt and change quickly just because of the things going on. So if our listeners want to get more information from you about, how their school, whether they're university, whether they're K-12, how they can get in and learn more about Element451, what's a good way for them to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, the best way is to go out to our website, element451.com, as in Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
So that's element451.com.
That's really cool. Ardis, thank you for coming on the show, and we can't wait till the next time we talk to you. Maybe down the road we find out some more what's going on, and you're into public schools and charter schools, and it's going to be a fun ride over these next few months as we get back out of the pandemic and into some normalcy, as they say. So.
It will. Jeff, David, thank you for having me on. This was great.
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Hey, thank you so much to Ardis, Kadiu and Element451 for taking some time out and talk to us about marketing for higher ed and K-12.
Yeah, bringing the fire.
Bringing the fire. That's right.
Element451. Fahrenheit 451. That's pretty cool. Yeah, really cool stuff. And I think it's very relevant to what we're seeing now. So states going to open enrollments, vouchers, which are going to start playing a big role in a lot of states, and ours included. But it's going to be a pretty interesting changeover. I think it's really cool. So yeah, thanks to Ardis. Don't forget to check them out. Element451.com. Hey, you know what time it is, don't you?
The EduTech tip of the week.
Hey, it's that time again. Thank you for that lovely intro. This week, if you've not noticed it, Google added a really cool feature. It's a cool feature. At the bottom of when you go to your regular, open your new tab or your search page, shows all your previous stuff that you'd open. That's real. Can you guys cut it out? Anyway, that's really handy. So that is the
EduTech tip of the week.
What do you think of that EduTech tip of the week?
Stress on the word week.
Come on, Google. You can do better. Now I will say they do have a new feature where you can add a watermark to your docs.
Well, and you can add drop-down menus. Actually, it's not even a drop-down menu. It's a drop-down like selector thing you can put
for
in.
your docs. What this? It's not. What I don't. Come on, Google.
I don't know.
You're giving this stuff away for free. Come on.
That's right.
Microsoft made us pay for this kind of crap for years.
Exactly.
How dare you give this away for free?
Dare you offer drop-down menus inside a document for free?
God, sounds like just, what is this coming to? Hey, anyway.
This is what post-pandemic gets you.
Is it what it gets you?
Drop-down menus in a Google Doc.
It gets me I have to pay, all that money they gave me, I had to pay taxes on it. What are you talking about? It gets me anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Yeah. And it gets me a bunch of broken Chromebooks that students return in backpacks with little sisters spit on it, and 25 stickers of Goku, Baby Yoda, or whatever his name was. Oh
God! All that ESSER money that was just thrown at school, so they all bought all this technology, and it all went home with the kids. And guess what the kids did with all that technology?
They went free stuff to break.
Yes, that's exactly.
Look, Mom, they gave me this computer. What are you going to use it for? I'm going to hammer this thing in on the wall.
I think I'd take all the keys off and not put them backwards. I'm just going to take them off.
That's how people used to say, we don't need typing classes anymore. Why do we need typing classes anymore? Because the kids think if you remove the keys and put them in alphabetical order, they'll type that way.
That is so true.
And scarily enough, I think some of the teachers do too.
Oh my gosh.
Boy, that's funny. Hey, listen.
Oh, man. Jeff has found the soundboard, ladies and gentlemen. We are all in trouble from here on out. Just mark this down. This is the start. This is the first episode. From here on out, history has been made.
You're a comedian.
Oh. Be here all week.
Thank you.
Try the veal.
Okay, I'll stop.
That's actually kind of bassy.
It's kind of nice.
That's kind of nice.
Here's another favorite one, dude. We're going to segue into Fun Time with David. Yes, we are. Drive time weather coming up next.
That sounds like one of those bad game show, transition kind of things.
Does it really? And now Leslie with the weather.
No, yes, exactly. I'll tell you what it reminds me of is the old school You Don't Know Jack game. That's what that reminds me of.
Love that game.
Yes.
It does. That is. I think they stole it.
And they're up to like Jack 12 or something.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Are they still make it?
Yes.
I did not know that.
Now they're like, they got like these party packs. You play them all together. You use your phone to respond.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, once I got rid of the DVD, I just never played it anymore. Guess they're dead. I don't know what happened.
I don't know what happened.
What happened to Jack? He's not on DVD. You give a kid a DVD now, they're like, what is this coaster? Is this a plate? I don't know what this is. Hey, listen, it's been a great show. Hope you like our banter there.
That's right.
Got a little crazy, didn't we?
We did. As a matter of fact, speaking of DVDs and all that kind of stuff, I had we were having dessert the other day, and I didn't have a utensil to be able to cut the cake that we were having, so I just got out my Bryan Adams CD.
Because you know why?
Cuts like a knife. Two fat guys with dad jokes.
Okay, listen, we're going to stop
out of here.
We're going to stop this right now. Hey, listen, it's been a great show. I'm Jeff Madlock.
Oh, my gosh, I'm David Henderson.
We'll catch you next time.
You've been listening to the EduTech Guys, edutechguys.com.